Quick look at the Asian markets. They're holding on to the gains that we saw at the open, about 1.5% for the frontline Asian indices, the likes of Nikkei as well as the Korean index, while the Hang Seng is sitting at the high point of the day, a gain of 650 points and almost a 2% gain coming in for the Shanghai index as well. For the SGX Nifty, yes, it is underperforming the Asian markets by a fair amount, currently still sitting with a gain of about 0.6%. So those are the cues we will keep an eye out on. But the Asian markets, they're moving higher on the back of US President Donald Trump as well as Chinese Premier Xi Jinping's meet, where they've agreed to a truce on the trade war. Remember, the trade concerns have weighed heavily on global equity markets for most of 2018, and the two leaders who met for dinner on Saturday at the G20 summit in Argentina agreed to hold off additional tariffs for each other's goods after January 1 as talks between both the countries continue. Here's some opinion coming in from Temur Beg of DBS Group on the trade truce and what exactly to expect from the OPEC meet on December 6th.
Let's take the example of the USMCA, the NAFTA 2.0, if you will, right? There has been some middle ground found between the US and the Canadians and the Mexicans. What has that led to us? We're still got a whole bunch of tariffs on steel and other products. I was reading about the story about Canadian steel sector struggling under the burden of tariff. That hasn't gone away just because the New Deal has been signed. So the idea that a process or some sort of a resolution would mean significant easing of tariffs or significant easing of restrictions that already have been imposed, I don't think so. This stuff is now more and more bipartisan in the US. Democrats are no friend of China either. In the 90s or 80s, when the Cold War was in full swing, it's not like the US businesses were trying to defy the US administration's hardline view on Soviet Union. Here, as you can see repeatedly, US business wants some sort of a détente with China. They have massive footprint there. So US businesses will get in the way of the Cold War, in my view. And of course, it's an election cycle. 2 more years, and who knows what happens. So in my view, 2 years from now, we could be singing a whole different tune, whereas the Chinese certainly have much more staying power in this battle. Neither economy wants $50 per barrel oil. No. But one can do something about it, Russia. Yep. The other, given where Trump and MBS stand right now, probably can't do a whole lot about it. Yeah. As you saw talking about tweets, you know, Trump sort of asking the Saudis to keep oil prices even lower. Yeah. Now, both countries have massive fiscal issues and huge fiscal outlays, and oil at 50 makes their fiscal outlays, you know, unsustainable. So I think from that perspective, you know, some sort of a meeting of the mind with OPEC coming up could be in the offing. But Saudi Arabia is in a very precarious state in terms of cutting back production, whereas I'm sure Russia would love to see oil go back to the 60s.
Okay, so that's the word coming in from Taimur Beg. Not very hopeful that these trade war truce might ease the tensions, as well as doesn't think that the tariffs might see a cut in the near future on account of this trade war truce that we have seen over the weekend. But on that note, it's time now for a quick break. Up next, we'll get you a check on the cues to watch from the futures and options space. Stay tuned for that.